Victims of the Aurora theater shooting getting their first look at cell phone pictures taken by the suspect before the shooting. It's some of the new information we are getting to see as James Holmes' preliminary hearing wraps up without his defense calling a single witness. Now, our team coverage includes Call 7 investigator John Ferrugia and 7 News reporter Amanda Cost. And we start our team coverage with 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger. And Marshall, you saw photos in court showing the suspected shooter posing with his arsenal.
And one of the photos we saw looked similar to this. It was Holmes posing with something that ATF said was meant to make his home explode, kind of like a fireworks firing box. I found this online for sale from China, complete with a remote control. Another photo we saw was Holmes posing with a makeshift bomb. It looked like a cartoon bomb like this. The case was black and round. It had a fuse coming out of it, and the ATF testified that this is actually a website that Holmes bought some of his parts. Chilling images shown on the TV monitor in court today as prosecutors continue to lay out evidence to prove accused theater shooter James Holmes had intent and was deliberate with his actions on July 20th. Prosecutors showed photos found on James Holmes' iPhone. This sketch of one photo shows Holmes posing with a .40 caliber handgun. Aurora Police Sergeant Matthew Files testified Holmes was wearing black contacts and had, quote, a large toothy smile. Another photo shows Holmes with a black cap on, orange curls sticking out the back, Holmes sticking his tongue out. Both photos were time-stamped 6 hours before the shooting. Prosecutor Karen Pearson also showed us 4 other photos from the iPhone, images of what's believed to be inside and outside of the Century 16 Theater. The inside photos time-stamped June 29th, the outside July 5th and July 11th. Pearson told the judge there is an abundance of evidence that shows premeditation and planning.
Most every layperson believes that the more planning involved, the less likely it is that someone's insane. That isn't necessarily true.
Attorney Dan Reck tells 7 News it is not surprising the defense never called a witness at the preliminary hearing, since it's on the prosecution to prove it has enough evidence. The judge won't decide until Friday morning if there is enough evidence for Holmes to stand trial on all 166 counts. Though assuming there is, the judge has also tentatively scheduled Friday as a day Holmes could enter his plea. We were also shown photos of 6 Roadstars similar to this sitting in Holmes' driver's seat at the theater. ATF testimony revealed they were purchased from this website we're looking at, which states Roadstars are used when an immediate vehicle disabling roadblock is required. Reporting live, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
All 7 investigator John Ferrugia joining us now. And John, with the defense offering no witnesses today, what happens next?
Well, and the judge now decides whether there's enough evidence to move forward to trial, and clearly there is, and that ruling is going to come on Friday. There also may be an arraignment of James Holmes as well on Friday, but the real decision is in the hands of the prosecutor. Will the new DA, George Brockler, seek the death penalty? And since the defense has already signaled that it's going to claim Holmes is insane, what are the chances Holmes could be judged incompetent and sent to Pueblo State Hospital? Now, these are the questions that are going to be weighed in the coming weeks, because the DA could likely take the uncertainty of a trial and the death penalty off the table and get a plea of guilty with life in prison without parole. That would mean that James Holmes would never get out. Now, remember, theoretically, if he were judged insane and incompetent, he could be sent to Pueblo for many years, but still, one day, he could get out. Clearly, that is the best defense lawyers could hope for. But are they willing to go to trial to take the chance on a very risky defense? It seems likely that the DA will get some sense of what victims and families are thinking, in that many of them would have to offer what would be very difficult and emotional testimony about what they experienced. So some witnesses simply may not want to do that. Some may think they cannot do that, live that horror of what they saw again. So it's not going to be a simple decision for the DA nor for the families going forward.
Still a lot of work ahead. All right.
Right.
Thank you, John. Now, our team coverage continues with 7 News reporter Amanda Cost. Amanda, you've been talking with survivors and victims' family members about where they stand.
And they're standing together. They've put their lives on hold to be here, putting themselves through the nightmare they survived or lost a loved one to. But through the pain, determination, they are determined to seek justice.
I'm here for my son, I'm here for the 12, I'm here for everyone that's been injured.
Hearing what led up to the mass shooting their family members were murdered in played out in court.
It was deliberate, it was planned, it was thoughtful.
It was everything on his part to make sure that this act was carried out.
Disturbed by the self-portraits snapped hours before the massacre.
He had black contact lenses on and just looked very just evil, and he just sat in the courtroom pretty much delighted.
He was smiling the whole time. He was very, very interested. And then when it got to the people, he could have cared less.
From the plan to the shooting.
We were all sitting there trying to hold our emotions, and he was very excited to see himself.
And we want to call him crazy because we want to make that feel better in our society. But we have to accept the fact that there's evil people in our society that enjoy killing, but that doesn't make them crazy.
Your eyes are the window to the soul, and you could see that he was very delighted in seeing himself in that manner.
In the eyes of this grieving father who lost his son, the path to justice is clear.
And I want to see him convicted on murder 1 for all 12 counts.
And on day 1 of this hearing, the half of the courtroom where victims and victims' families were sitting, it was packed. Today, 2 rows were empty. Now, for Friday's ruling, they're expecting to have that entire half dedicated to those victims, whether they show up or not. Reporting live in Centennial, Amanda Cost, 7 News.
So again, Holmes is due back in court Friday morning. The judge hearing the case is expected to rule whether there's enough evidence to proceed to trial before then.